next guest twice won the Tail Spinner competition sponsored by the Poughkeepsie Journal. Amy Kwei's young adult novel, Intrigue in the House of Wong, was published in 2009. Her adult novel, A Concubine for the Family, was published in 2012. Amy Kwei's latest novel is Under the Red Moon, a Chinese family in diaspora, a tale of three strong women, a fractured family, love, and survival. Amy, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Your latest book, Under the Red Moon, is this a sequel to your first book?
It's sort of a sequel. It's about the daughters, and it went from their experience as foreign students to living Shanghai after the Second World War, and then went through the Korean War, Cultural Revolution, and moving to colonial Hong Kong, and then immigration to America. So it spans the middle 20
time and continents, right?
And the adjustments of cultures, and you get an impression of how the Western and Eastern cultures are so very different.
Now, did it take you a lot of research to come up with all the material? Because it's like a historical fiction, right? You try to get as close as possible to what life was like back then in a typical family. How much research did you do for this book?
Oh, quite a lot. You know, a lot of reading Kissinger's China, and even things like Gavin Menzies' 1421, Chinese supposed to have discovered America, and even there's a very new book by John Pomfret called The Beautiful Country in the Middle Kingdom, and has all these individual stories of people who have interacted with China. You know, it's very interesting, especially in the Boston area. Salem, the China trade is very important.
That's true. Amy, how much of this book is based on your family history?
Well, the first book, The Concubine for the Family, was loosely based on the very pivotal event of my grandmother giving my grandfather a concubine for his birthday.
His 50th birthday.
Right, because they have no sons. And she is a thoroughly Confucian-trained lady that believes, dedicates her life to virtuous living.
Now, did this concubine produce a son at all in the family?
No, two more daughters.
Because the sex of the baby is determined by the father anyway.
Right.
So
and so she has two daughters, and the concubine's daughter, there's three daughters, forms the basis of this new book.
Right.
So the new book could be read by itself, stands alone, and has some backstory to fill it in. But
so the two main characters are the mom and then the concubine, right?
The concubine.
Those are like that first generation.
Yeah. Both stories are character-driven, and the first one centers on perpetuate the
so there are three daughters. One is a daughter of the concubine, and two daughters are daughters of the mom.
That's right.
And they're called, let's see, Silver Bell and
Golden Bell, Silver Bell, and Coral Bell.
Coral Bell. Okay. So tell me about these three sisters. They're very strong characters.
Yes,
very different.
Yes. Right? The first daughter, Golden Bell, was in America before the family dispersed. They was in Hong Kong, and she came to America, and that was the section about her life in America.
And she was here to study at Syracuse University in the book,
That's
right?
a university that is the first university that admitted women.
Okay.
And then so there's this, her adjustment, and then she met a Chinese man who comes from a very wealthy family, and they went back to Shanghai. And that's when they went through the Korean War, the purges, the Cultural Revolution, and how her Western education collides with it, and how she was killed during the Cultural Revolution. and so from her you get this Western-Eastern conflict. And the second daughter,
Silver Bell.
Silver
She's
Bell,
more open to the American ways, I think, right?
Yes, she's musical, and she went back and married a philanderer, a wheeler dealer. And so, but then it turned out he had a backstory, how he suffered during the Japanese occupation. And the third daughter remained in Shanghai, and she became a rear guard organizer. And she does not, she's a true Christian, and she maintains her faith, and she...
Even under the communism? Really?
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting.
She follows the orders and uses her influence to help her family. But she's still, basically, she's a Christian, and so it brings up the Chinese sense of religion, and again, the Western and Eastern differences. For instance, the second daughter, Silver Bell, was praying. She's a Methodist.
She was sort of taught by a missionary in China in your book, right?
But she's came to America as finished high school here before she went back.
Okay.
So, and she was a Methodist, and she was praying for a son. But then after she prayed for the son, she went to the temples and asked the Buddhas, just in case they have any influence. So this is
She did double prayers, right?
And that's how many Chinese view religion. It's the Chinese are not very religious, but they believe in Christian charity, of course. And
so these three sisters are pretty close throughout the book? Or do they interact pretty much and they're close to each other, or are they competitive?
No, they finally reunite because the second Silver Bell moved to Hong Kong because the family wants to leave some fortune in safe hands in Hong Kong. And the whole stories are all about feminine solidarity, family solidarity, how people do heroic deeds to help their families.
And that comes from their background and training from their parents?
Yes.
They were just taught, this is what you do this for family. Is that right?
This is the very basis of Confucianism, is a family and education, because in the Christian teaching, you're born in sin, and you need personal redemption, whereas the Chinese believe that you're born good, but you need to be taught to remain good. So recently, Donald Trump's grandchild recited the 3-character book, and that's very, very basic for Chinese. It says, you have to be taught. This is this, and
that comes out in your book, Under the Red Moon. Is that right?
And yeah, it also was mentioned in the first book because that's how the mother taught the girls.
Okay, very good, Amy. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for
Under the
having
Red
me.
Moon.
Thank you.
Okay.